We continue with the sugya of watching our eyes, the union of Shovavim. Before we continue, we have to remember that the time of year that we're in very much reflects the siyata d'shmaya that we get in many different ways. Just as an example, the Shmiras Einayim, the Ger Rebbe once said, it's printed in the Sforim, that this week's parasha is the beginning of when Klal Yisrael got out of Mitzrayim, V'chol Yitzis Mitzrayim, all of these parashas. So a person can tap into the siyata d'shmaya of Yitzis Mitzrayim, of Pesach, Leila, Seder. These parashas means very much that tzaddikim are busy with this idea that the time of year that we're in, the parasha that we read, has a lot to do with the koiches that we get. Which means that on Shovavim, as much as we've been discussing until now, and we're going to continue, we're going to try to get a little bit more positivity, as is Hashem, each week trying to discuss a little bit different of an aspect in the sugya. We do have to realize that the Rabban Shem does give a special koyach and a special strength during the time of Shovavim that often we don't get as much. Some people can feel it, some people can't feel it. Maybe we have to tap into it, maybe we'll be able to feel it also. But as I said in the beginning, it's a serious topic. It is a topic that we can't joke about, we can't make fun of. It's a serious thing. It's something that is unfortunately very, very widespread, perhaps even more than we even think. And that's why it's important for us to, number one, identify the problem, understand how bad it is, even though with identifying how bad it is, it makes sometimes a person feel even on the borderline of what they call depressed. Oh no, this is me, this is crazy. But with the knowledge of what we're trying to do over here once a week, which is trying to give chizuk in a positive way, even though maybe until now it hasn't felt so positive, but we are going to build up positivity, and we're even going to give some tips and some tried and tested ideas that people have come back to me and told me have worked. So I would like to give those to the Olam as well, because I believe that's important. We're not here just to discuss, even though that alone is enough, how bad it is and the reward for being careful. But we're here to try and work on it together with the Olam. There's a certain koich of the tzibur as well, by the way, we have to understand as well. When the Olam are tzazamen, when they're together to work on something in Yoni Kedusha is an incredible thing. The Rabbeinu Shalom, not that we can understand, but the Rabbeinu Shalom looks down and says, here's my heilige Yid, my heilige children, who are so desperate to get close to me, and they know what's stopping them, and therefore they want to get close to me. So that's what we're doing over here. So right now there's a very big Kedusha in this room. There's a big Kedusha inside every single one of us, because we are right now at this moment in the next few minutes trying to get closer to Hashem in Yodei Kedusha, which is of the most hardest things ever. Let me begin, Rabbi Yisrael, like this. Rav Nosson Adler was the Rebbe of the Heilige Chassam Sofer. The Rebbe of the Heilige Chassam Sofer. At Tzaddik, a Goyin Olam, one of the Gedolei Adar, Rebbe of the Chassam Sofer. So he quoted a Gemara, where the Gemara tells us like this, a very scary thing, but it's a Gemara and we need to know it. The Gemara says that when a person is what we call a goisis is someone, Rahman al-Itzlan, that's about to die. He's hovering between life and death. He's literally what we call on the deathbed. He's about to leave the world. It's called a goisis. So the Gemara talks about such a person, and the Gemara says that on top of such a person, the Malach HaMoves is right there, ready to take him, ready to grab this person, right? His neshama out of his guf. And the Gemara says that the Malach HaMoves is Molei Einayim. The Malach HaMoves is full of eyes. Full of eyes. That's what the Gemara says. Thousands of eyes. And that's the Gemara. That's all the Gemara says. The Chassam Sofer brings his Rebbe, Rav Nosson Adler, that says Pshat in the Gemara and Pshat in his Rebbe, that when a person looks at something that he should not be looking at, he's creating an eye. And that eye remains, and when he is about to leave the world, all of the eyes that he created over all the things that he looked at over his lifetime, again, tshuva of course takes things away, but even putting that aside for a moment, they come back to quote unquote haunt him and look over him as he's about to leave the world, reminding him of what he has done. Now, by the way, the Chassam Sofer says that sometimes you find that a person shakes before he leaves the world. So the Chassam Sofer says it's because he's seeing the eyes and he's so petrified and he's so distraught with those eyes. Now, why am I telling you this? I do not want to get you depressed. I don't want you to think that, oh my gosh, that's it. First of all, tshuva is gavaldik, and tshuva will always help to erase and eradicate. And Fakir, the Gemara tells us, tshuva ma'ava makes all of our averos turn into mitzvahs, but that's a side point. I'll tell you why I'm telling you this. I'm telling it to you because people often, again, we spoke about this last time, think that, okay, I looked. Pseidas, I looked. No, I don't look anymore. I stopped looking, leaving out tshuva. I don't look, it was ages ago. But what we do stays with us for a lot longer than we actually can imagine. And that's the koyach of the eye, that the eye penetrates right into the neshama in a way that nothing else can penetrate as quickly as that can. The eye, so the Sifri Kabbalah, is the smallest and thinnest mechitza between the outside world and our neshama on the inside of our guf, on our body. Which means the eye can penetrate things straight into the neshama. So I tell you this Chassam Sofer, I tell you this Gemara so that you know that when you are about to, or if you did, again, we'll talk about tshuva and we'll talk about everything in it. Just know that it's so severe that it does remain with us. And I'll give you one example and then we'll move on to something a little bit positive. There's a famous Gemara, you should look this up yourself, the Gemara in Kedushin Dapei. The Gemara in Kedushin tells us about certain Tanoim that would laugh at people that do Averis. Those people do Averis. Good for nothings. Over Averis, these people do Averis. Especially Averis that have to do with women. They would laugh at them. Like, what's the matter with you people? Why are you mechsha? Why are you falling? Why are you stumbling in these sorts of Averis? Big deal. Not a big deal. Right, Ness? So, the Rabbeinu Shalom wanted to teach them a lesson. And the Rabbeinu Shalom wanted to show them it's not so simple. So what the Rabbeinu Shalom did, listen to this, the Gemara tells it before. What the Rabbeinu Shalom did, is he dressed up the Satan to be the most beautiful woman that ever walked on planet Earth. Okay? The Rabbeinu Shalom could do that. The most beautiful woman ever to walk planet Earth was dressed up inside the Satan. Satan comes down to these Tanoim, to these Amoraim, and starts to try and get them to do Averis. Starts to present themselves in certain ways that would, and the Tanoim and Amoraim were looking this way, they didn't want to look this way, they didn't want to look that way. Ad Gedei Kach, that the Gemara tells us that they took metal pieces of iron, they put it in fire, and then they poked their eyes out. Ad Gedei Kach, they didn't want to be able to look at such a woman, and there's a whole thing, they got their sight back, whatever it was, and we're not going into the details. Asks the Ben Yada the following kasha. I don't understand. The Rabbeinu Shalom needed to have the Satan dress up as the most beautiful woman in the world. Why can't HaKadosh Baruch Hu just bring a gorgeous woman over and let it happen that way? Ooh, maybe she's not the most gorgeous, but come on. Why do you have to have the Satan do it? Yeah, because the Satan was prosecuting, but what's Pshat? Ben Yada says Pshat like this. It's our Yesod. If it would have been a genuine, real woman, and they would have stumbled and looked, that would have made a connection. That would have made a problem. And the Rebbeinu was going to say, Adkan, I don't want to do. I want to test them, because we're all here for tests. We're all here to be tested. That's our job in this world, is to be tested. And whether or not we pass that test, and everyone on their level to be tested and passing. But, HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't want that connection. So therefore, it had to be the Satan to be able to do that. Rabbi said there is a connection that goes on in our eyes and our neshama to what we see on the outside. We don't appreciate it, we don't realize it, but I want to highlight it at this moment. Now I also want to say that if we stop for a moment, let's try to understand from a psychological point of view, what is the pshat? Why people are so, we know the Yetzer Hara of Arias is of the hardest Yetzer Hara ever. Probably the hardest it's ever been. That's why, by the way, the smallest bit of trying that we do accomplishes more than anyone could have ever accomplished until this day, right? Which we'll talk about. It's amazing. Because the Yetzer Hara of Arias is so strong, and for good reason. The Gemara tells us in Yuma that they stopped the Yetzer Hara for Arias. A chicken didn't even lay an egg, because there was no taiba between a male and a female chicken to be together, because there was no Inyoni Arias, there was no Yetzer Hara, so they weren't even interested in having kids. The continuation of the world wouldn't happen. So the power of Arias The koyach of this Avera is strong, and it's the strongest it's ever been, which means on one side it's very hard to fight. On the other side, the smallest bit that we do to try and fight it, and I believe showing up to this share is a huge part. Every guy that makes the effort to be here, well, you guys don't have to be here. You can say, this share maybe I won't be in. I'll come to the rest and we'll talk about Hilchos Shabbos and Tefillah and whatever they'll talk about over here. But this one, I don't know. But the fact that you're here, that means you want. In a generation like today, you want to stop. You want to try. The Rebbeinu Shalom is nachas like we can't imagine. It's unbelievable. The Rebbeinu Shalom says they want. Okay, maybe they're not always matzliach. That's fine. They're human beings. They fall. I put the Yitzhak in them. I understand them. I get them. But the fact that they want, you know what that is? Every single one of you that are here, that want to hear this, it's unbelievable. So that's easy. The Yitzhak is very strong, and we know that. I had to convince anybody in this room that the Yitzhak is extremely strong when it comes to Inyanei Arayos. I don't need to persuade anyone. That's pashut. But I want to understand for a moment what's going on when a person has the opportunity. He has a phone, he has a computer, he's on the street, wherever he may be, and he sees something or he can press something that he shouldn't. Why? What's going on in his head? What's going on in his brain at that exact moment? So we know the Gemara in the Sotah tells us that a person only does an Aveira when he's nechlos by ruach shtus. Shtusim. He's not thinking properly. That we know. No person is thinking properly when he does an Aveira. So half the reason why the Rebbeinu Shalom is not going to hold us accountable for many Aveiras because you weren't thinking. You were in a moment of forgetfulness. You're in a moment of taiva, in a moment of thing. We don't expect much more of you. It's okay. I'm not saying we have a head to put Aveiras for this, but I'm just giving you an idea of how serious the Rebbeinu Shalom takes even this. The Rebbeinu Shalom understands how hard it is for us. But what's going on? So I want to just for a moment to understand. There's almost like an unspoken promise. If you look at this, then you'll be good. The eye is the greatest salesman. The eye is telling you, just look at that page, look at that site, look at that whatever it may be, and then you'll be satisfied. And then everything will go away, and the taiva that you have, that urge that you have, will go down, and everything will be gavaldik. But the answer is, and again, I don't have to tell anyone here something that they don't know, but it's almost like, and the mashal I bring every year, is like drinking salty water when you're very thirsty. Imagine being really thirsty. I'm parched, I need a drink, desperately need a drink. Someone comes to you with some really salty water. So you drink it. So as the liquids go down your throat, l'maisa, it's quenching your thirst. Because now my throat's not so dry. I have liquid there. But it's so salty that I need to drink more. And I need to drink other drinks. And it's the same thing your eye tells you and your Yitzhak, your brain is telling you, just look at that, it's fine. And then you'll be satisfied. And then you'll go on. And the answer is, that's not how it goes. Because when we look, we just want more, and we just want more, and it never satisfies us. The next website, the next idea, the next mahalach, this thing didn't satisfy me, I need to go on to this, I need to go on to that. We all know how it works, right? But that's what it is. The eye is giving you a thing saying, just try this, it's be okay. If we know in advance, and we all know, that our taivas are not going to be fulfilled when we put on the site that we're looking to put on, or flick whatever it is that we're doing, or buy whatever it is that we're going to buy, or go to the place that we're going to go, we're not going to be satisfied. We're never satisfied and say, we're done. You ever heard a guy that looked at something he shouldn't have done once in his life and says, I'm good now? For the rest of my life, I don't have to look. Doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. Because psychologically, that's what's happening. You want more. And the adrenaline and everything it gives you for those few moments is crazy. And if you think about it, I had a Talmud of mine that years and years ago, his mother ran off with a gardener that was not white. Let's just call it that way. Now, she had a family of children. She had a few taivas. Okay, could be she wasn't getting what she wanted. Whatever it is, she had a few taivas. You think about it. How many people are willing to give up their entire olam hazeh and everything they have, everything they built, for a few moments of pleasure that's gone afterwards? It's done. Never to be seen of again. People are willing to give up their husbands, their wives, their children, their Yiddishkeit, their nachas, their simchas achayim, their lives, for bit of taivas for something that goes away, that you just want more and more, like the Gemara tells us, Sukkah Eva Cotton Yesh Adam. Everybody, the more you use it, the more you want. That's how it goes, by the way. It's the Gemara Mefurish tells us that. The more you use it, the more you want. You know, the big day kahuna that the Kohen Gadol would wear was amazing. The Chinuch tells us that the whole purpose that the Kohanim had certain begodim, garments that were specifically tailor-made, specifically for Kohanim, was to show their chashivas. If we walked around that we are choshev, that we are b'nei melech, that we belong to the Rabbeinu Shalom, we are the children of Hashem, then how are we going to do something wrong? He says the Chinuch, when a Kohen knew that he was a Kohen, because he wore specific clothing, it changed his perspective of life. It changed his inner self. It changed his self-esteem. It changed everything he represented because he knew he was a Kohen. A Kohen can't do that. A Kohen can't do that. We have to know who we are. I tell you, Moedike Rabbeinu Yonah in Pirkei Avos. Rabbeinu Yonah tells us that Aaron HaKohen was Oyev Abrias. He loved everyone. And he also got everyone to be korov, to get closer to the Torah. How did he do that? How did Aaron HaKohen do it? Says Rabbeinu Yonah, amazing. Aaron HaKohen would go over to a guy and say, you know what? You're the most choshev guy in the world. You're amazing. You're just, wow. The guy's thinking to himself, if Aaron HaKohen knew what I was doing last night, he's not going to be thinking I'm the most choshev guy in the world, right? He doesn't know, that's why he said it. And Aaron HaKohen's continuing to love him, hug him, and give him all the respect. And eventually thinks to himself, you know, maybe I am. Maybe Taka, I am choshev, even with the Aveira that I did. And it makes him feel different. And next time he gets subjugated to that Yetzer Hara, next time he's faced with that challenge, he thinks to himself, me? No, I can't do that. That's the big day kahuna. Rabbi say we are living in a Dor HaMabul. You know what the Mabul was? Pollution of Tumah all over the world. Wherever you look, wherever you went, there's Tumah. We're living in such a world. We're in Yerushalayim HaKodesh, you can't get away from it. It doesn't make a difference where you are. You could be in Lakewood, you could be in Gateshead, you could be in Stamford Hill, you could be in Miami. It's irrelevant where you are in the world. There's Tumah everywhere. We're living in a Dor HaMabul. The only way that we will be able to fight this is being machazik ourselves. Okay, I told you the Maisa. I think I said it over. When I was being Menachem Oval, my dear Talmud, who lost his son. So a Yerushalmi guy, a Chassidish guy, I think it was, came inside, gave a whole chizuk shmuz. It was amazing. And he said the following mashal. He said that you have a peacock with all the gorgeous feathers of all the colors, and you're trying to clean and brush off the peacock's feathers, the colors. So you start at one